All right, guys, this is the video that goes along with non-traditional day 3. Once again, I need you guys to read over the vocabulary that is on page 1 of this document. I'm going to go over the 2 examples that you see, and then I'm going to immediately go to the second page and go over the example there. So just some examples of some distributions that you see before you here. In this first graph that we have here, we have a symmetric set of data. So remember to talk about the shape of the data. And it is unimodal. And we have no apparent outliers. Okay, so those are the 3 things that you'd want to talk about. In our next histogram that we have here, we see that it is skewed to the right. This is where our tail is. Remember, the tail determines which way it is skewed. We can say that it is bimodal. Right here and here we have a mode, or 2 modes happening. And we might have an outlier around 7 or 37. Okay? So just an outlier to maybe talk about. So that is how we describe our data. Where is the center? What is the shape? Are there any unusual features? Is it skewed left? Is it skewed right? And there's a quick review of that. Down here, once again, I want you guys to read over this, but on the next page, we are going to do a 5-number summary and then review how to do an appropriate box and whisker plot. So the 5-number summary when making a box and whisker plot is determined if the data is in order. So as you can see here, I've given you the scores on a biology test, and the very next thing I do is I rearrange them in numerical order. Then once you arrange them in numerical order, you want to identify the min and the max. Once you identify the min and the max, you want to identify the median. Now remember, if your median, if you have an odd set of data, your median is exactly in the middle, but when we have an even set of data, we have to average the 2 center values together. And here we find that it is 85 and 86, and I'm going to average them together and I get 85.5. So that is my median. And then once I have that split up right there, I go and I work my way to the center of this half of the data, and I work my way to the center of this half of the data. And in doing so, so as I work my way to the center, I find that it is these 2 numbers right here that I'm going to have to average together as well. And I get 77 when I average those 2 numbers together. And when I average 90 and 91 together, I get 90.5. So all that's already been kind of worked out for you on this document. So we know that our 5-number summary is the minimum. It is Q1, which we found was 77. It is our median, which we found was 85.5. It is our Q3. We found that was 90.5. And it is our max that we found was 99. Now, before we can actually make our box and whisker plot, which you guys can already see on this document, we have to test for outliers. So just a review of testing for outliers, you have to find the IQR, which is Q3 minus Q1, and that gives us 90.5 minus 77, which gives us 13.5. And that will help us to determine our lower fence and our upper fence. Our lower fence is found when we take our Q1 and we subtract 1.5 times that IQR. When I do that, I get 56.75, meaning anything below 56.75 is going to be considered an outlier. Next, I have to do my upper fence, which when I do my upper fence, I'm going to do Q3. And now I'm going to add the same thing that I just subtracted in the previous fence. And so when I do 90.5 plus 1.5 times that IQR, I get 110.75. So anything above that would be considered an outlier. So I immediately look to my data and I look to my min and my max. And if my min and my max is inside of these fences, then I have nothing to worry about. 99, definitely less than 110.75. but I look down here at my minimum and it is below this fence. So then I look up to my data and make sure that I don't have anything else below that fence, and I don't. 66 is the next data value and it's above that. So I have one outlier, that's 38. I mark my outlier, and then I create a new minimum here on the box and whisker plot. And so my new minimum is 66. Notice that I number an appropriate number line underneath my box and whisker plot that has even intervals between each number. I think I've seen a lot of you guys just kind of throw the numbers here and not remember to put that number line below the box and whisker plot. It is not appropriate without it. I think yes. So now it's time for you guys to practice. You'll turn your practice work into me, and then you're going to submit your answers to your exit slip through the Google form. If you guys have any questions, please email me. Thanks again.